Welcome to Global Facts. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Are you worried the World Cup could be ripped away from the US at the last minute? You need to watch this if you struggle with uncertainty about the future of the world's biggest sporting event. The FIFA World Cup, supposedly the world's greatest celebration of unity in sport. Every 4 years, billions tune in, hoping to witness history, heartbreak, and the unifying power of the beautiful game. Stadiums erupt with color and song, and for a few weeks, borders seem to blur as nations come together in friendly rivalry. But this time, something feels different. As of October 2025, just 8 months before kickoff, the event feels less like a festival and more like a standoff. The anticipation that usually electrifies the air has been replaced by anxiety and uncertainty. Instead of excitement, there's a sense of dread, an uneasy feeling that the world's biggest sporting event might be slipping through our fingers. Rumors swirl. Could the US, the main host, actually lose the World Cup to Canada? It sounds unthinkable, but the possibility is now being discussed in boardrooms, newsrooms, and living rooms across the globe. The idea of a last-minute switch has sent shockwaves through the sports world, raising questions about what it means to be a host and who truly controls the fate of the tournament. What started as online chatter has become a global obsession. Social media is ablaze with speculation, memes, and heated debates. News outlets run constant updates, and fans everywhere are glued to their screens, desperate for answers. The uncertainty has united people in a new way, through collective anxiety and anticipation. The cause? A collision of hardline US immigration policies, political posturing, and a showdown between a combative US president and FIFA's iron-fisted leadership. The stakes are enormous. This isn't just about soccer, it's about national pride, international relations, and the billions of dollars tied up in sponsorships, infrastructure, and tourism. Behind closed doors, negotiations are tense, with both sides refusing to back down. 48 teams, 104 matches, millions of fans, and billions invested. The logistics are staggering, and the world's eyes are fixed on every move. For players, coaches, and supporters, dreams are on the line. For cities and businesses, fortunes hang in the balance. The World Cup is more than a tournament. It's a global phenomenon, and its future now hangs by a thread. Instead of unity, the world is watching a public squabble that threatens the very spirit of the tournament. Commentators argue on live TV, fans clash online, and the sense of togetherness that once defined the World Cup is being replaced by division and distrust. The world is holding its breath, wondering if the magic can survive this storm. The promise of a world welcomed with open arms is being tested, and the foundations of the greatest show on earth are looking alarmingly unstable. Stadiums that should be buzzing with anticipation now stand half-finished or eerily quiet. Volunteers and workers are left in limbo, unsure if their efforts will ever see the light of day. The game hasn't started, but the drama is already in overtime. As the countdown to kickoff continues, the world waits, hoping that the spirit of the World Cup can endure, and that somehow, the show will go on. To understand this crisis, look at FIFA's history of ignoring politics, unless it threatens their bottom line. From Brazil's protests in 2014 to Russia's controversies in 2018 and Qatar's human rights scandals in 2022, FIFA's response has always been the same. Issue platitudes, praise the hosts, and keep the games going. FIFA claims football is above politics, but their actions show otherwise. They rarely demand real change, preferring to protect their brand and profits. That's why FIFA's current pushback against the US is so unusual. For once, the line crossed is one even FIFA can't ignore. The stakes have never been higher for their authority. The firestorm began when President Trump threatened to move World Cup games from so-called unsafe US cities, a thinly veiled reference to cities that openly opposed his administration's policies. The announcement sent shockwaves through the sports world and ignited fierce debate across the country. For many, it was clear that Trump was using the world's biggest sporting event as a bargaining chip in his ongoing battle with political adversaries at home. The message was unmistakable: support the administration, or risk losing the prestige and economic windfall of hosting World Cup matches. It was a classic Trump move, leveraging a global spectacle to pressure local leaders and rally his base. By tying the World Cup to his political agenda, Trump transformed what should have been a unifying event into a new front in America's culture wars. The threat wasn't just about soccer, it was about power, loyalty, and who gets to shape the nation's image on the world stage. Human rights groups and politicians had been sounding the alarm for months. They warned that the administration's travel bans and aggressive immigration crackdowns could prevent not only players, but also fans, journalists, and officials from entering the country. The fear was that entire teams or delegations could be blocked at the border, undermining the very spirit of the World Cup, a tournament built on international cooperation and open access. The administration's response to these concerns, dismissive at best and at times openly hostile. Officials brushed off criticism, insisting that national security came first, even if it meant clashing with FIFA's requirements and international expectations. Vice President Vance even went so far as to joke about detaining World Cup visitors, drawing laughter from some supporters, but outrage from civil rights advocates and international observers. The remark underscored the administration's willingness to use tough rhetoric, even at the risk of diplomatic fallout. The message from the White House was clear. Entry to the U.S. is a privilege, not a right. This stance directly contradicted FIFA's strict requirements for open, non-discriminatory access for all participants and fans. The tension between national policy and international obligation was now front and center. Trump's threat to move games wasn't just a negotiating tactic, it was a direct challenge to FIFA's authority and the very principles of the World Cup. For the first time, the selection of host cities became entangled in a high-stakes political contest. He turned the process of choosing host cities into a political loyalty test, forcing mayors and local officials to publicly align with or against the administration. The stakes were enormous, not just for the cities involved but for the reputation of the United States as a welcoming host on the global stage. For FIFA, an organization obsessed with maintaining control over its tournaments, this was a red line. The federation had never faced such overt political interference from a host nation, and the prospect of games being moved or boycotted threatened the integrity of the entire event. In picking a fight with FIFA, the most powerful sporting federation on the planet, President Trump wasn't just risking a diplomatic spat, he was gambling with America's global image, the dreams of millions of soccer fans and the future of the World Cup on U.S. soil. FIFA's response was swift and unusually forceful. Vice President Victor Montagliani declared, "The 2026 tournament is FIFA's event. Final decisions belong to FIFA." He reminded the White House that FIFA's authority is backed by ironclad legal contracts with all host cities. Arbitrarily moving matches would trigger lawsuits and chaos. Meanwhile, FIFA President Gianni Infantino played diplomat, meeting with Trump and offering reassurances, but staying silent on the latest threats. This good cop, bad cop routine reveals FIFA's internal struggle: defend its authority or keep the peace with the U.S. president. The organization is walking a tightrope, trying to project strength without risking the entire event. The world is watching to see who blinks first. Despite the rumors, there's been no official move to relocate games from the U.S. The tournament's structure is locked in: 104 matches, 16 cities, with the U.S. hosting the vast majority, including all knockout rounds. Canada and Mexico are minor partners, lacking the stadiums or infrastructure for a last-minute takeover. The financial engine is already running, fueled by record ticket prices and American dollars. A ticket to the final at MetLife Stadium costs up to $6,770. The entire economic model depends on the U.S. market. Moving the tournament is logistically and financially impossible. The real question isn't where the games will be played, but under what political conditions, and who will be allowed to attend. The matches will go on, but the atmosphere is anything but certain. The real victims of this standoff? Fans, players, and officials. The World Cup's promise of global unity is threatened by U.S. travel bans and hostile rhetoric. Fans from banned countries may be blocked, and even those allowed and face suspicion and anxiety. Athletes and team staff get exceptions, but families and journalists remain in limbo. The festive, open atmosphere is at risk. The World Cup is meant to be a bridge, but it's becoming a wall. Instead of unity, the event risks breeding resentment and division. The soul of the tournament is being eroded by politics. The World Cup is big business, billions in revenue, massive corporate sponsorships, and huge local investments. Disrupting US-hosted matches would be a financial disaster for FIFA and its partners. Sponsors like Coca-Cola and Visa want unity, not controversy. Host cities have spent millions, counting on a tourism windfall. Trump's threats create instability, risking jobs and local economies. Record ticket prices depend on strong demand and a sense of safety. If the event is tainted by politics, demand could plummet. The financial health of the tournament hangs in the balance. Experts agree, moving the World Cup from the US to Canada is pure fantasy. Canada lacks the stadiums and infrastructure, and building new ones would take years. FIFA is locked into binding contracts with cities, sponsors, and broadcasters. Breaking them would mean endless lawsuits and financial ruin. FIFA's pushback is about protecting its business, not taking a moral stand. The real risk isn't relocation, but a chaotic, tarnished event. Unless sponsors or powerhouse teams revolt, the games will go on as planned. The real drama is the politicized, compromised environment in which they'll take place. The World Cup rumor may be just that, a rumor whispered in backrooms, splashed across headlines, and dissected in endless online debates. But even if the details are murky, the underlying tension is impossible to ignore. The controversy is real, and it's not just about the game. It's about the politics and the power struggles that swirl around the world's biggest sporting event. This episode exposes the uncomfortable truth. Global events like the World Cup are never just about sport. They are mirrors, reflecting the hopes and fears of entire nations, and sometimes, the cracks in our global community. They reflect our political fractures and anxieties, magnifying them on a stage watched by billions. Every decision, every controversy becomes a symbol of something larger: national pride, international rivalry, or the struggle for justice. FIFA's demand for control clashes with the host nation's politics, revealing hypocrisy on both sides. The organization claims to stand above politics, yet its every move is steeped in negotiation and compromise. Meanwhile, host countries promise unity and celebration, but often use the event to mask deeper issues. The result? A public feud that undermines everyone: host, organizer, and fans. The excitement of the tournament is shadowed by protests, boycotts, and bitter debates, leaving many to wonder if the spirit of the game has been lost. The world will watch to see if the US delivers on its promise of an open tournament, one that welcomes all and lives up to the ideals of fair play and inclusion. The stakes are higher than ever, with the eyes of millions fixed on every move, and if FIFA stands by its principles, it will have to prove that its commitment to integrity and transparency is more than just words. The organization faces a test of credibility, not just with governments, but with fans around the globe. The 2026 World Cup will almost certainly be played in the US, a nation with its own complex history and challenges. The preparations are underway, but questions linger about who truly benefits from this global spectacle. But its legacy will be defined by more than the final score. It will be measured by the impact on communities, the stories of those left out, and the lessons learned about power and unity. Is the World Cup truly for the world, a celebration that brings people together across borders and backgrounds? Or is it just another pawn in a political game, manipulated by those in power for their own gain? The answer is still unclear, and perhaps it always will be. The World Cup remains a stage where dreams and disappointments collide, where the beautiful game reveals its ugliest truths. As the world waits for kickoff, we're left to wonder, can football ever truly rise above the forces that seek to control it? And that, more than any on-field drama, is the real story, one that will continue to unfold long after the final whistle blows.